Today we're moving on to Law 3, the players. And this is where football starts to feel very human. Because Law 1 gave us the stage, Law 2 gave us the ball, and now Law 3 gives us the people. This law answers some of the most basic but important questions in the game. How many players are allowed? How many substitutes can be used? What happens if someone enters without permission? What if a player swaps with the goalkeeper? What if an extra person is on the field when a goal is scored? And the reason Law 3 matters so much is simple. Football only works when everyone knows who is actually allowed to be part of the match. A match is played by two teams, each with a maximum of 11 players, and one of them must be the goalkeeper. A match may not start or continue if either team has fewer than 7 players. That sounds straightforward, and most of the time it is. But as soon as you step into real football, things get messy. A player turns up late, a substitute is warming up but has not been checked properly, someone gets sent off, a goalkeeper wants to swap shirts with an outfield player. A team official wanders too far onto the pitch. Suddenly, Law 3 is not just paperwork, it is match control. Let's start with the number that everyone knows, 11. Each team can have up to 11 players on the pitch, but the more interesting number is often 7, because that is the minimum. If a team drops below 7, the match cannot continue. And there is a detail here that is very referee-like. If a team goes below 7 because a player or players deliberately leave the field, the referee does not have to stop play immediately and can allow advantage. But once the ball next goes out of play, the match must not restart if that team still does not have the minimum number. That is such a classic laws of the game detail. Then we come to substitutions, and this is where a lot of confusion lives. In official competitions, the number of substitutes that may be used is set by FIFA, the Confederation, or the National Association, up to a maximum of 5. In top division club football and Senior A internationals, where 5 substitutes are allowed, each team has a maximum of 3 substitution opportunities, and they may also make substitutions at halftime without that counting as one of the 3. Extra time has its own additional rules, and competition rules must also state how many substitutes may be named on the bench. Now, if you are new to refereeing, that phrase substitution opportunities is worth really understanding. It does not mean 3 substitute players. It means 3 moments in the match when a team can make substitutions during stoppages. So if a team sends on 2 players at once, that usually counts as 1 opportunity, not 2. If both teams make changes at the same stoppage, that counts as a used opportunity for both sides. That is one of those things that seem small until you are in a tense match, and someone on the bench starts insisting very confidently that they still have another window left. And as a referee, you need to know whether they do. Law 3 also reminds us that not all football is organized in exactly the same way. In some forms of youth, veterans, disability, and grassroots football, return substitutes may be permitted, but only where the competition allows it. Some competitions may also permit additional permanent concussion substitutions. That is a useful reminder that while the laws are universal, some competition rules sit on top of them and slightly shape how Law 3 works in practice. Now let's talk about the substitution procedure, because this is one of the most important practical sections in the law. A substitute must be named before the match. The referee must be informed before any substitution is made. The player leaving must go off by the nearest point on the boundary line unless the referee allows otherwise. The substitute enters only during a stoppage at the halfway line, after the player being replaced has left, and after receiving a signal from the referee. The substitution is completed when the substitute enters the field of play. From that moment, the replaced player becomes a substituted player, and the substitute becomes a player who can take any restart. And that is beautifully precise, and it needs to be. Because football loves gray areas, and Law 3 tries very hard to remove them. You can almost picture the common Grassroots scene. One player jogs off slowly like time has no meaning. Another is already halfway onto the field. The coach is shouting a tactical plan, and everyone is looking at the referee as if the whole thing should somehow manage itself. But it does not manage itself. The referee manages it. And that is why Law 3 matters. It creates a controlled doorway into the match. There is also a lovely little bit of realism in the law. If a player refuses to leave when being substituted, play continues. Now let's move to the goalkeeper, because the goalkeeper is always slightly special in the laws. Any player may change places with the goalkeeper, but only if the referee is informed before the change and the change is made during a stoppage. If players swap with the goalkeeper without permission, the referee allows play to continue and cautions both players when the ball next goes out of play. And again, that feels like such a football moment. Maybe the keeper is injured. Maybe a team is chasing the game. Maybe someone thinks they can do a better job in goal. The law does not forbid change. It just says that the referee must be informed about it. Now, one of the most dramatic parts of the law is what happens when people are on the field who should not be there. Law 3 deals with extra persons on the field of play. Team officials, substitutes, substituted players, sent-off players, or outside agents. If one of those enters the field and interferes with play, the referee stops play, has the person removed, takes disciplinary action where appropriate, and restarts according to who interfered. If it was a team official, substitute, substituted player, or sent-off player, the restart is a direct free kick or penalty kick. If it was an outside agent, it is a dropped ball. This is one of those laws that sounds rare until you referee enough matches. If without intending to interfere with play unfairly, a team official, substitute, substituted, or sent-off player or player who is temporarily off the field of play due to an injury, adjusting equipment, or for another reason, if one of them touches the ball while it is still in play but when it is clearly leaving the field of play, this is penalized with indirect free kick and there is no disciplinary action. It is actually part of Law 9. But it is worth mentioning it as well in this section. Then comes one of the most fascinating little corners of the law, a goal scored with an extra person on the field. If before play restarts, the referee realizes that an extra person was on the field when the goal was scored and that person interfered with play, the goal may have to be disallowed depending on who the extra person was. But if the referee only realizes after the restart, the goal cannot then be disallowed. If the extra person is still on the field, play is stopped, the person is removed, and play is restarted appropriately. That is such a brilliant example of why referees have to be sharp. Because once play restarts, you can't change your decision. You do not get to rewind the match just because you spotted the problem too late. And finally, Law 3 now ends with something that feels simple but actually says a lot about modern football: the team captain. Each team must have a captain on the field wearing an identifying armband, but the team captain has no special status or privileges under the laws, even though they do have a degree of responsibility for the behavior of the team. Competitions may also implement the only the captain guidelines, and I think that is such an important point. A lot of people assume the captain has extra rights with the referee, but under the laws they are still just a player. No magic powers, no automatic right to debate every decision, no special immunities. What they do have is responsibility, and that feels right. So what is the deeper lesson of Law 3? It is that football needs more than play years. It needs managed participation. It tells us not just who can play, but when they can enter, how they can leave, who can replace whom. What happens if numbers fall? What happens if order breaks down? Law 3 tells us who belongs in the match and who does not, and what the referee must do when the lines get blurred. And honestly, that is why it is such a great law for referees to study. Because Law 3 is not just about counting players. It is about controlling the human side of the game.